What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Walk on Wisdom. I am your host, Michael Chandler. And as I say every single episode, I am by no means an expert at anything, but I have been around the world a couple times, been through a lot of ups, a lot of downs, been fighting in mixed martial arts for 16 years, hand-to-hand combat for 25, couple years in high school and then college, and now 16 years fighting professionally. So I've learned a lot, and a lot of you guys have sent in some really awesome questions, thought-provoking questions. If you want to send in a question, send it into podcast@michaelchandler.com. We always like to say, go into depth, but don't make them too long. We like to say, make them an iPhone's length. Obviously, I'm sitting here reading them off of my phone, set up by my awesome media director, Connor. So thank you guys so much for believing in me and trusting me and to give you wisdom in some of the things that you're going through. A little bit deeper than, what do you eat or how do you train? It's things about life, whether it is the struggle you are going through, whether it is life questions, being a father, being a husband, being a business owner, an entrepreneur, a CEO, whatever it may be. So thank you guys so much for believing in me, and let's get right into it. The first question comes from Derek. Hey, Mike, loving the podcast, and I love that you are a big Zig Ziglar fan. He is one of my all-time favorite speakers. That being said, my question is, how do you find focus in setting goals, and how do you know that that's the right thing to pursue? I don't struggle with motivation once I've set my mind on something, but I've hit a rut in finding what I need to do in order to take my life to the next level. Would love your thoughts and insights. See you at the top. Derek from Orange County. Number one, shout out to Zig Ziglar, the greatest speaker of all time. And what I loved about Zig so much, and I still love, even though Zig is no longer with us, he has gone to be with Jesus. But obviously he started out as a salesman, so he understood speaking and he understood human psychology. But then he really started to realize that you are what you are and where you are because of what has gone into your mind. That is a very big Ziglar quote that I live by. And he also talks about being a wandering generality or a meaningful specific. And sometimes we can become a little bit too eager to find out the exact meaningful specific that we are. And if I'm being honest with you, I've spent many different seasons in my life not exactly sure what direction I want to go in. Even right now, I do wear a lot of hats. I'm fighting in an octagon for a living. Those are my big paychecks that I'm making, but I am an entrepreneur. I am a media host on this podcast. I do have endorsement deals. I am a father and a husband and a friend and a business owner and on the board and in doing charity work and doing all kinds of different things and wearing a lot of different hats. So sometimes your meaningful specific is doing one thing at one time and focusing 100% of your focus on just that one thing. And then sometimes it is, hey, right now I'm in a season of exploration, so to speak. And I feel like that's where I'm at right now in my life as well. I'm exploring different things that I'm working on as this career and this platform has grown bigger and bigger and bigger. I just finished my book. We are just signed a deal to do my documentary that should be coming out next year, where I'm speaking on stage in front of about 30,000 people in the next couple weeks on 3 different events and just pouring into big things. So through it all comes back to the mindset of James 1:5. He who lacks wisdom, ask for it, and the Lord your God, who gives it abundantly, will make it clear to you. So I pray that prayer every single day, both for my career, inside my home, with my wife and my children, knowing how to be the best father, knowing how to be the best husband, knowing how to make a lot of money, have a lot of fun, and help a lot of people. So I think you bring it back to putting it on a piece of paper. Write down all the things that you want to do, all the things that you want to have, and the person that you want to be. And do not be afraid to be audaciously overreaching, almost unrealistic about it. When it comes to how much impact you want to have, the kind of car that you want to have, the kind of house that you want to have, the things that you want to have, the relationships that you want to have, the kind of voice that you want to have. So Derek, as you kind of navigate through it, and anybody else who is listening right now, who I would assume or have been in or are in a season like Derek is right now, when you say, hey, once I set my mind to it, there is nobody that can stop me from doing the small brick by brick boring things every single day in order to go from point A to point B. And that point B is reaching that goal. And then once I reach that goal, I find the next goal to tackle. But how do you find out what specifically you should be looking at, what specifically you should be looking toward, what specific goal should you be reaching, what specific target should you be aiming at. And as I said, it goes back to asking for wisdom. God, just give me the wisdom today to know how to handle this conversation, to how to handle this meeting, how to handle this relationship, and then watch the series of events happen before your eyes, and then the decision becomes abundantly clear. And a friend of mine, James, when I was in between a couple different big decisions, trying to figure out what the right decision is, what I should be focused on, I was like, man, I'm just afraid to make the wrong decision. And let this right now take the chains off of you and take the weight off of you to know that, hey, there is no wrong decision sometimes. There is just the decision, or there is just a decision. And then once you make a decision, it becomes the decision, and you can rest in knowing that you made the decision instead of sitting around and having the analysis paralysis. Well, what if I make this wrong decision and these bad things happen? There's almost no bad decisions you can make in your career that are going to completely catastrophically ruin you and end your career. Sometimes we can build these things up so much in our mind that we think, well, if I make this wrong decision, this one misstep, it's going to completely bankrupt me. It's going to completely ruin me. It's going to completely end. Everything is going to end. So take that weight off and know that if you ask for wisdom, you write it down, everything that you want to do, who you want to be, and everything that you want to have. And then you can kind of start compartmentalizing those things. Well, this is in the relationship bank, and and this is in the career bank, and this is in the finances bank, and this is in the significance and purpose bank. And then you put them in different little banks and different little boxes, and then you think, okay, now you list them, okay, and you number them. Hey, these 17 things in the purpose bank, 17 I'm not really feeling right now, but this one's number 1 and this one's number 2. And you can kind of start to prioritize things in this beautiful, almost chaotic spider web of all the different crazy, audacious things that you want to do. Derek, like Zig said, are you a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? And sometimes you got to be a meaningful specific, doing something that you don't want to do in order to become the man or the woman that you want to become or that you are supposed to become. So write those things down, visualize them, see them, and ask God for wisdom every single day. Derek, I hope that helped, or anybody who is going through a similar scenario. Next question comes from Austin. Hey, Michael, my name is Austin. I am 22 years old, and I'm a huge fan of yours, and I love the podcast. I joined wrestling in high school because of you. That's awesome. I have a girlfriend of 2 years, and I don't really feel comfortable talking with friends or family about advice because I don't like to talk to anyone about feelings. I'm coming to you because out of any podcast or platform out there, I seem to resonate with your wisdom the most. My girlfriend and I have been fighting a lot recently over little things, and no matter how hard I try to ease the conflict and tell her everything that she wants to hear, she always tends to think I don't listen to how she's feeling. Do you have any advice for how to handle small fights in relationships and what to do if your partner doesn't feel like they are being heard? Is it worth it staying in a relationship if your partner always tends to pick fights? Thank you, Michael. You're the best. Austin from Wisconsin. There's a lot to unpack here because relationships are very important. And I do truly believe that the person that you marry is the single most important decision that you're going to make on this planet, on this time that you have on this planet. Whether it's 20 years, 50 years, 80 years, or 100 years, the person that you marry is the most important decision that you're going to make in your entire life. And being 22 years old, Austin, you're kind of in that age right now where, maybe you went to college, you're getting close to graduating or just graduated, and now you're going to go out into the world and become a real man and find your career path and find the things that you want to pursue, that you find purpose in. And these kind of relationship questions are really tough without me being in them or hearing a lot about them. But life is too short to have constant bickering with the one who is supposed to love and support you and that you're supposed to love and support. Now, Austin, I also don't know if you aren't a great listener. I think ultimately us men, we have a tendency to try to insert our words instead of just open our ears. My strength and conditioning coach in college said, hey, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them accordingly. Now, obviously that is in a Division I college wrestling strength and conditioning setting, But I think it does kind of ring true a little bit between a man and a woman. Men, we were created to lead. We were created to battle. We were created to fight. We were created to build. We were created to move mountains and do great things in this world. And can tend to be a little bit harsh but that's one of our superpowers, but it can also be a deficiency. And we tend to be a little bit crass or a little bit egotistical, a little bit prideful. And some of those, it's sometimes that's a chink in our armor, and sometimes it's our superpower as well in different scenarios. But when it comes to the relationship with your partner, I was actually talking to, I'll just say a friend of mine the other day who is now engaged. And the best advice that I could give someone who is in a relationship, and Austin, obviously you're asking me, is it worth staying in a relationship where there's, a little bit of constant bickering or constant fighting? My knee-jerk reaction is no, because I really don't think that relationship should be that hard. Or my wife and I have our little disagreements here and there, but we spend 90% of the time being best friends and partners in crime in this earth. But I was talking to him and I said, hey man, the best piece of advice I could give you is sleep on it. When it comes to, hey, she's got this idea, I don't really like it. She said this, I don't really like it. She disagrees here, I don't really like it. If you can swallow your pride and swallow your ego for just, sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a day, to keep quiet and let them process it, because you might think you're smart and you might think your brain is going a million miles an hour, but women are just designed differently. I believe. I think they think more, they feel more, they have more emotions, and they think differently with their emotions and differently with their brains, and God designed them beautifully different than us. So sometimes as a man, if we could just keep our mouth shut a little bit and give them the space to make a decision, or even sometimes apologize, or even sometimes come to their senses, or even sometimes realize, you know what, actually, that's not how I feel at all. I'm sorry that I said that. Or, hey, you know what, that's not what I want to do at all. But for some reason, something in me said, I want to be an independent woman and I want to make this decision on my own. And I'm like, okay. And I was able to, times where I was able to just keep my mouth shut. And then a day later, we sit down and we have a real conversation again. And she's like, you know what, actually, I changed my mind about that. So that would be the best advice I would give when it comes to kind of the bickering and the fighting. And any men out there, who might feel a little bit of conviction where it's like, man, do I really listen to my wife, or am I just talking to her and talking at her? Because you do have a lot of wisdom, but there is no wisdom like the discernment of a woman. And I have seen that a million times in my career, in my entrepreneurial journey, as well as my fight career, as well as a father, where I talk to my wife about almost everything. And sometimes I feel like I talk to her about everything too much, but there's comfort in speaking to my wife, because I know that she is tied directly to God's discernment and God's wisdom for our relationship and for our life. But to go to your question of, do you have any advice of how to handle it, or is it worth staying in a relationship where your partner's always tending to pick fights? Now, Austin, you are somewhat throwing some blame her way and saying, a relationship in which your partner is always tending to pick fights, which obviously leads me to believe that you think she is picking the fights. And no, life is way too short to be with somebody who is really trying to pick fights. And truthfully, I've seen it a lot in relationships and friends of mine. Some people just thrive in chaos, and maybe they grew up in a family that constantly fought, and it made a lot of sense to them. And that's just how relationships handle themselves, and people just fight all the time. But I think life is too short to be with somebody who picks fights all the time. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean there's not a lot of introspection and self-reflection that you could also do with your wisdom that you're getting inside of this relationship, your experience that you're getting with this young lady, to make you better for the next one, or maybe work this one out. So with that being said, I'll move on to the next question. But I do, speaking of relationships and speaking about my wife, and because I've had this conundrum many times, guys. I've literally laid in bed thinking, gosh, I probably shouldn't have even told her about that. This thing wasn't 100% set in stone. And if I ask her about it and then it doesn't work out, am I a failure? Or, hey, I'm having a problem with, the UFC fight career stuff, or a sponsor or management or something. Like, do I even need to talk to her about it? Do I need to? add her into all the little minutia about it. And I just got done telling you guys, I talked to her about almost everything because I believe a woman's discernment is the greatest discernment that a man can ever get to have when they find the woman that they are destined to be with for the rest of their life. It is the most beautiful thing about my life. Truly, it's the most beautiful thing about my life, that I know that a woman who loves me more than anything on the entire planet is connected directly to God. And sometimes I feel like he doesn't, I don't know, this might sound blasphemous or off key here, but like, he doesn't speak to me. He'll just speak to my wife, and then she will speak to me. If that makes any sense. I don't know how to explain it, but she just brings so much clarity, and she's always freaking right. And I've talked to so many men my age, or men that have been married for 20 years, 30 years. Your wife is right a lot. And if that intimidates you, or if that offends you, or that strikes you in your little ego or your little pride a little bit, maybe you need to do a little bit of self-reflection, because it's the most beautiful thing about life. And even I heard somebody speaking about it the other day, and one of my favorite movies of all time is 300. King Leonidas and his beautiful queen, his beautiful wife. If you remember that scene where King Leonidas, the Persians come and they say, we offer you earth and water, and we're going to put you guys to work, and all you got to do is just surrender right now. And King Leonidas kind of slowly backs him up to that big old hole, but right before, he kicks him in the chest and yells, "This is Sparta." What does he do? He looks back over his shoulder to his wife, and she looks him right in the eyes, and she gives him that little nod up and down, like, go ahead. I support you. I'm with you on this journey. I have no idea what's going to happen here. We might all die. We might all be dead in 24 hours, but you know what? I'm supporting you. And in my heart of hearts, I believe this is the right decision. And then he turns back, and then he yells, "This is Sparta," kicks this guy in the chest. He falls into the hole, and then they go fight an unwinnable battle against the Persian army that was 1 million people or whatever it was. And I only say that because there's beauty in that. And now being married for 11 years with my wife now for 13 years, there's been so many times where I'm like, I feel like this is the right decision. And I don't need my wife's permission. Let me be clear. Like she trusts me to make a decision knowing that I've already thought through it, and I've already sought wise counsel. I've already prayed about it. And I already know that I'm going to make the right decision. Yet I still ask her for her blessing on it, no matter what. And it's not who wears the pants in the relationship. It's a real wisdom that she has, and she's always been right. So I figured I'd just throw a little bit of marriage advice in there, or the beautiful relationship between a man and a woman, how God created us similarly, but also differently and beautifully differently in a lot of ways. But Austin, I wish you the best. Send in another question and let me know how the relationship pans out, and maybe we'll be still working through this one, or maybe we'll be talking about the next one, or maybe we'll be talking about the single life and how you handle yourself in the single life. We shall see. Next one comes from Tino. Hey, Mike. I am 17 years old from St. Louis, Missouri. Shout out St. Louis, man. Yeah, as you guys know, that's where I'm from. I started wrestling my junior year, and I fell in love with it. I'm going into my senior season, and I set a goal to place at state, even though it's only going to be my second year of wrestling. Other people around me believe in me, and I believe that I can do it too. One of my coaches said that it's important to have fun in the off season and get away from wrestling. This does not make sense to me, because I thought that you have to outwork everybody and dedicate yourself each and every day to your goal. Do you think it's important to take some time off, or do you just go at it as hard as you can so I can close the gap between me and my competition? Well, Tino, number one, kudos to you for falling in love with the sport of wrestling. And I know you're only going to get 2 years to do it in high school, and then maybe on into college. But I'd say your coach is wrong. I'd say there's 24 hours in a day. Even if you trained every single day, twice a day, you still got 20 hours left in the day, minus 8 hours to sleep. You still got 12 hours to have fun / goof off / have a fun summer. For me, I wrestled every single day of the off season, or did some kind of running, weightlifting, training, sprint work, some kind of work every single day throughout every single summer in high school, throughout every single day of the season and off season in college. And then now, obviously, as I've gotten older, I've already got all that hard work in the bank, so to speak. So I take a little bit more time off now But, if you're 17 years old, I think right now is the time where you're still learning your body. Your body's not even 100% developed yet. I think about my sons right now. My son Hap is 8 years old, and he's trying to move his body through football and baseball and basketball and riding bikes and all these different things. And it's funny to watch him because he's decently naturally gifted, but his body is still moving, and his feet are different size 2 months prior and then 2 months later, and then his legs get a little bit longer and his shoulders get a little bit wider, and his body is growing. So it's funny to watch it in real time, and it's hard for me to remember back when I was 14, 15, 16 years old as a high school wrestler. Your body is still growing and you're learning how to use it to the best of its ability. Make sure you join a club team and you train with that team every single day, especially, and especially if it's a rival high school, like I had to do. It kind of made me an outcast in my high school wrestling team. I just wrote a complete chapter about that in my book, talking about how making the selfish decision to focus on myself and train with another team in the off season kind of made me an outcast on my high school team, because during the season we'd be going to a tournament and guys from Fox High School and Seckman High School and Lindbergh High School and these other high schools were friends with me. And then my teammates would have to go wrestle these guys, and then they'd maybe lose to one of those guys and they'd be mad at me because I was kind of friends with those guys because I wrestled them in the summer. So you're still figuring yourself out, and you're trying to figure out social norms, and you're trying to figure out being independent and being on your own path and running your own race, but then also kind of wanting to be with the crowd and be a cool kid and wear what they wear and do what they do. So you're just trying to figure it all out, and just let me say, you will never in a million years wish that you didn't work as hard. I imagine that, your coach's advice is, hey, it's important to have some fun. And, and maybe he's talking about, obviously he knows you more than I do. Maybe you do have a tendency to overthink things and pour yourself too much into things. And sometimes that can be a catalyst for burnout, a catalyst for underperforming because you got so hyper focused on it. But when you talk about this summer, the off season, that's a long time. You wrestle like 3 months in season, right? But you start in October and you're done in February. You're wrestling in October, starting to compete in November, December, January, and then state championships is in January, February. You're talking about like a 4-month period where you're really like in season and training. So what do you do the other 8 months of the year? You train, that's what. You lift, that's what. You run, that's what. You figure out your weight. Are you gaining weight? Are you losing weight? Are you obviously always staying in shape, but are you trying to increase your cardio? You're trying to increase your strength. Your body is a beautiful masterpiece, and it's up to you to build it. So without knowing you and knowing your mentality, I would say that you'll never in a million years regret the hard work that you put in. You will more than likely regret the time that you wasted. And also, you started as a junior. You've only got 2 years to get the most that you possibly can out of this. And if you want to place at state as a senior, you better darn well be training every single day. And, this question just came in. So you guys are probably going into season right now. You probably already started school, your senior year. You better be training every single day. Extra lifts, after extra work. And that's just me. Maybe I'm a little bit of a psycho. We don't know, but I have not regretted one training session of my entire life. And to those people who say I work too hard, thank you. For those people who say I was too much into it, thank you. For those people who say, why in the heck did you waste all that time and spend so much time? Think about the parties you missed. Think about the weddings you missed. Think about the friends you lost. Think about the concerts you missed. Thank you. Didn't need to go to them anyway. Next question. One real quick. Wet the whistle. Next question comes from Stefan. Hey, Mike. Hope you're doing great. My name is Stefan. I just started watching your podcast on YouTube, and I have to say that it really does help me, because I started to realize how many people have the same worries, struggles, and demons they have to fight with, just as I do. Shout out, man. We all do. It is to be uniquely human. We all have demons. We all have struggles. We all have worries. Every single one of us. My question is, how do I deal with my fears and demons mentally? What do I need to tell myself when things get hard? I made lots of progress and I'm still on my way up. But there's always something in the back of my mind that is pushing me back from achieving my goals and living the life that I want to live, or becoming the man that I want to become. I'm 19 years old and I am filled with potential, but oftentimes I just don't know how to deal with the setbacks and failures. I'd be more than thankful if you could give me some advice. Wishing you and your family the best. God bless. See you at the top. Man, I love when you guys finish these questions with God bless, see you at the top. But man, what great insight, Stefan. Number one, I always talk about y'all's humility, and obviously, it's kind of easy to write something out, but it does take courage. It takes courage for Stefan right now to admit that he's struggling with demons and fears and worries. It takes courage, and it takes stepping out of the box and stepping into faith to say, hey, I'm struggling here, or hey, I'm really fearful of this, or hey, my relationship is crumbling here, or hey, my faith is lacking here. So I just want to give a shout out to all of you loyal listeners and you guys who really pour your heart out and aren't afraid to admit those things, because that's where the real magic happens. God created us for community and for relationship, and the first step into becoming the best person that you want to become is admitting where the chinks in your armor are. I could sit here and do a whole podcast. Maybe we will someday, Connor. We'll just sit here and I'll just tell you guys all the things I'm struggling with, all the places that I lack, all the deficiencies that I have, all the fears and doubts and worries that I have, because I do too. And that right there in and of itself, if you just found this podcast because one of your friends sent it, or you've been following me since Mizzou wrestling and you think I'm this big tough guy I'm bulletproof and I got all these things figured out, and I got the wife and I got the kids and I got the money and I got the house and I got the platform and I got the microphone, I got all these things. None of that stuff means a dang thing. I'm still a human being, and I'm falling flat on my face every single day, and I'm asking God for forgiveness, and I'm asking God for wisdom, and I'm so fearful of so many different things. That is the human condition. And I believe that's the way that we were created, so that we don't get so self-consumed and think that we can always do it on our own. We can't do it all on our own. We have to do it with other people, and most importantly, with our faith, resting secured at the right hand of the Father. So, Stefan, the question is, how do you deal with them? What do you need to tell yourself? Well, that two things right there. Dealing with them, number one, admitting that you have them, and you've already done that. And number two, admitting that you have them, but then also starting to realize that everyone you've ever looked up to, everyone that you admire, every human being on the planet is going through the exact same thing. And sometimes we can get so caught up, and I think I have to check myself with this all the time. And I do check myself with this all the time. It's part of my keynote that I'm speaking to people this weekend. I've checked my own ego and realized how selfish and self-centered I am when I start looking in the mirror and I'm only looking at myself and my problems and things I have to deal with and demons I have, instead of realizing that every single person is going through them. Every single person I look up to, admire, and want to emulate has had failures and has had setbacks and does have demons and does have struggles mentally and struggles with self-image. So admitting that you have it, admitting that everyone else has them, and then starting to unpack them and realize, where did they come from? Is it emotional trauma from wounds of your past? Is it the current silly decisions that you're making right now? Is it the concessions that you're making right now? Is it the promises that you're breaking to yourself right now? Do you start by writing down 5 things every day that you know you can 100% get done? Because there's power in the pen, and there's power of checking off things that you can get done. Because then, Stefan, you can check things off and say, I'm reliable because I did this, and I'm reliable because I finished this, and I'm reliable because I saw through on that promise that I made to myself. And it doesn't have to be these big, crazy things. It could be as simple as picking up that load of laundry that you've been putting off for a week, or making your bed, or taking your supplements, or small little thing, eating a healthy breakfast, or a million little things that you can do to check off the list so you can start gaining more trust in yourself. Because I do think the worst promise that we can break is a promise to ourselves. Because when you break a promise to yourself, it eats at your self-image. When you eat at your self-image, the self-image diminishes. When the self-image diminishes, you find yourself with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, thinking the wrong thoughts, in the wrong activities, and leading more and more toward aimlessness. If you can't rely on yourself, you're going to automatically think you must rely on the world or the whims and fancies of this crazy coincidental, serendipitous world that we live in. That's really not true. You are what you are and where you are because of what is going on inside of your mind and the decisions that you make, and you will ultimately get what you deserve. You have not because you work not, or you have not because you think not. You have not because you believe not. So what do you need to tell yourself? I think it's all of those things. I'm going to start standing confidently on my own 2 feet, stop breaking promises to myself, and realize that failure is an event, not a person. So when you have your demons and your fears mentally, you're not quite sure who you want to be. You're not quite sure what you want to accomplish. You're not quite sure how you come back from the last loss. Guys, I'm sitting here with stitches just got out of my face a couple months ago with this scar on my face that you guys can all see. Where do I go from there? Well, I just keep on moving forward. Brick by boring brick, 1 foot in front of the other. And as you said, you've made a lot of progress. You're still on your way up, as we all are. But it keeps on pushing you back from achieving your goals. And it seems like you're losing the battle between your ears. So visualize who you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to have. Surround yourself with the best people possible. Make sure you get out of that little comfortable jail cell of self-pity where you're feeling sorry for yourself and you're not pointing the finger at yourself and looking at your own chinks in your armor and deficiencies and things that you need to work through, and stop blaming other people. Not that I'm saying you're doing that, but that just seems like the human nature for us to want to blame other people for the things that we're going through. Take 100% extreme accountability for your own actions. And I really hope that helps, because just like you said, I'm 19 years old and I'm filled with potential, but oftentimes I just don't know how to deal with setbacks. And you will keep on getting smacked right in the mouth every single day. And you will be beat down to your knees every single day, every single week, every single month. It's just part of life. And that's the beauty of life. This life, we were not created to have a life of ease. And it is our unwavering, relentless pursuit of comfort that is so badly damaging our souls, our minds, our bodies, because we just want everything to be easy. We want everything to come so quickly. We want to get rich quick. We want to get famous quick. We want to be successful quick. We want my food quick. I want my YouTube quick. Move on to the next episode if I don't like this one. Fast forward if I don't. Fast forward through the ads. Life was meant to be a slow burn and a slow grind. And I'm living proof of that. I've been grinding since I was 14 years old, completely dedicated my life to this. And I've had some success and things have worked out. But it took a very, very long time. And you are filled with potential, and you are created for more than you ever could think or imagine. And everybody listening to this is, if you will just have enough patience and stick-to-itiveness and keeping promises to yourself to see it through. Eventually the hard work pays off. You just have to still be standing there to receive it when it does. And sometimes, once again, now we're kind of done with this question, I'm going to go into a little, what would we call that? Intermission, Connor? Just like I did on the last one, I started talking about the 300 thing. We're going to go into a little intermission because I've been thinking about this concept a lot lately. And just like Stefan said, remember, guys, sometimes you need to, it's unfortunate and it's painful and it's uncomfortable and it's icky and it's regretful sometimes, but sometimes you need to become the person that you do not want to be in order to become the person that you do want to be. And having that perspective, I've been the person that I do not want to be so many times in my life, whether it would be professional or in my relationship or in my entrepreneurial journey, finances, the platform, all these different things. Sometimes you need to go through a season where you can look back and say, yeah, well, I don't want to make that mistake again. I don't want to act like that again. I don't want to have that kind of ego, that kind of pride. I don't want to treat people that way. You have to go through those times in your life to then and only then have the experience, the firsthand experience, to know the person that you want to become, right? Because I could read a book about how a guy that I admire went through a season and he, whatever it was that he went through, but it just doesn't hit home, and I can learn from it, but it doesn't hit home like me actually being that person, if that makes sense. So Stefan, right now, going back to the previous question, struggling with your demons and your doubts and your fears or your anxieties or all these different things. Well, sometimes you need to go through that to realize that you don't want to be mentally weak, or you don't want to keep breaking promises to yourself, or you don't like the person that you are when you are feeling that way, or treating people that way when you do feel that way. If I'm making sense to you guys, right? And I can only say that because of the wisdom that I've had over the last 39 years. And I look back at times in my life where I'm like, gosh, well, I don't want to be that guy again. I don't want to act that way again. I don't want to feel that way in my heart. And then out of the abundance of the heart speaks the mouth. and then I speak things to people or I treat people a certain way and I know I'm hurting inside. So, okay, well, how do I make sure I don't get to that place where I'm hurting inside again so that I can start treating people more with love or looking at a scenario from a different lens, from a more mature, more experienced lens. So, Stefan, you are just a human being just like me and every single one of you listeners out there. You're going to have your doubts, fears, and insecurities and anxieties and pain and sickness and ups and downs in life because you are a human being. Let's talk to Caleb. Next one, Caleb says, "Hey, Michael, my name is Caleb. I'm 23 years old and I live in Kentucky. Firstly, I just want to say I'm probably your biggest fan and have the utmost respect for you. It's truly inspiring to watch you inside the cage and, more importantly, how you carry yourself outside of the octagon. I've recently went through a break in my relationship. I failed to take extreme ownership in several aspects of the relationship, and now it is to this point. She needs time to heal and focus on herself, but has said if I can make the right adjustments that we can have another chance. I've also recently lost my job and have interviews set in place, but am currently unemployed as well. This all happened within a 2-day span, and it's overwhelming. If you have any advice at all, I'd be greatly and sincerely appreciative. Sorry for the lengthy message. Thank you for all you do, sir. I wish you and your family the best. Thank you for giving back. God bless. See you at the top." Man, Caleb, well, first of all, right there in the smack dab in the middle of this, I can tell you've been listening to the show. Did you talk about taking extreme ownership in several aspects, right? And Jocko Willink talks about this, taking extreme ownership. He tells a story about how he was in charge, and I don't want to butcher this. I don't want to disrespect Jocko, but my recollection of the story is he was in charge of a I don't even know if I want to say platoon, or he was in charge of a company of men, and some bad stuff happened, and there was friendly fire happening, and thank God, I think no U.S. soldiers were lost, but at the very end, they go into for a debrief, and Jocko wasn't engaged in the friendly fire. Jocko didn't really do anything wrong by pulling the trigger or doing any of those things, but he was in charge. So therefore, he expected for him to go in there and his commanding officers, and he was going to say, well, it was because of gunnery sergeant here, or because of lieutenant that, or because of this guy, or because of the comms, or because of that. And he didn't make any excuses at all. He said, sir, this was my fault. I was in charge. This all rests on my shoulders. Was it my fault? Did I make the tactical errors? Did I do that? Not really, but I was in charge. So therefore, I'm taking all of this. And then the other guys started raising their hand. And it was like, once they saw that, they started raising their hand and they said, well, sir, I should not have done this. Or, well, sir, I should have interpreted the communications differently. And I'm kind of paraphrasing here, right? But once he stood up and took extreme accountability and extreme ownership of all of this falls on me because I was in charge, then everybody else around him started saying, well, actually, maybe I should step up too. And maybe I should say, hey, I probably shouldn't have done this as well. But right here in the middle of this, yes, you have gone through the breakup, and yes, you made some mistakes, and there was several aspects of the relationship that got you to this point where you needed to be better. But ultimately, you've already taken the most important and first step. Number one, you've got some time to reflect. Number two, you've got the opportunity, and you've also taken the accountability of realizing that, yeah, I'm sure she ain't perfect. Well, I know she ain't perfect. She's a human being. None of us are perfect. But I'm sure there was some blame that she has on her side as well. But all of that is null and void, and none of that is relevant whatsoever. If you can look at every single scenario in your life and say, yeah, they made a wrong decision. They wronged me. They were dishonest. They did this. They can take the blame for this aspect of it. None of that stuff matters. All that matters is you taking extreme ownership for how you could have been better. And that's how you then become the best version of yourself. And then also, like you said, losing your job and your relationship within a 2-day span, that's obviously a very dark place to be. But sometimes bad things come in 2s and 3s and 4s, and it just seems like you can't catch a break. And it's those times in life where this idea of this extreme ownership really comes to light and really comes in handy, because yeah, it does stink that you lost your job. They were downsizing, or they had to lay you off, or Maybe you weren't good enough for the job. That's always a possibility as well. But these times when life throws you bad hands, bad cards, bad luck, bad scenarios, it's in those times especially where you have to take that extreme ownership and realize that there's blame, on your side, that you need to fix certain things. And then ultimately, what can you do to become the best version of yourself? Sounds like you got a lot of time on your hand. I would make sure I'm working out every day. I'd make sure I'm eating correctly. I'd make sure I'm prayed up. I'm journaling. I'm visualizing. I'm building myself into the best version of myself, who, quite frankly, like you said, sounds like you're a little bit torn up about this relationship. She deserves a great man. She deserves a leader. She deserves someone who takes accountability. She deserves someone who says, I'm sorry. She deserves someone who is willing to change. She deserves someone who can swallow his pride and swallow his ego. And this gives you an opportunity to be in a self-reflection season of your life to where you can make the requisite sacrifices, to make the requisite changes that you need to make in order to become the best version of yourself. So I know it all happened at once, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming. And I know there's somebody else listening right now saying, preach, brother. And you're shaking your head like, yep, I feel that too, man. It just feels like sometimes life just keeps kicking me right in the Johnson and I can't catch a break. But that is the condition of life. We've already kind of talked about this a little bit. God created us to withstand so much more than we can even fathom. But only by going through things can you look back and realize how strong you've become. To quote Jocko again too, and you guys should all look up Akira the Don, by the way. Akira the Don, he uses a lot of Jocko stuff in his music. But he's got this song called Darkness or Dark. I forget what it's called, whatever. But Jocko says, only by knowing how dark it can get, can you know how dark it can get. So I think we need to go through these seasons of our life. We're like, man, that was dark. That was tough. I questioned my abilities. I questioned my self-worth. This tested my mettle. If your mettle is never tested, then you don't know what you can withstand. Once you've been punched in the face a few times and you realize you're not made of glass, you can push yourself further and further and further. And you realize that every single scar, every single battle wound, every single season of your life where you've been beat down and had to go through some things and pull yourself back up, all of those things made you better. Sometimes bad things come in twos and threes, just like it does with Caleb and probably just like a lot of you guys and definitely in my life. But you're 23 years old and you got your whole life ahead of you. I don't know if you're going to marry this young lady. I don't know how quote unquote bad you are or were, but either way, we can all be better. And sometimes we need a little bit of a wake up call. And sometimes we need a little bit of a, wake up call in your career by losing your job, a wake up call in your relationship by losing the relationship or going on a quote unquote break. But I do believe all things work together for he who continues to work, who puts his hand to the plow, moves forward, and never looks back. So spend that time right now, or anybody else who is listening, if you're going through a time right now where you're just taking shot after shot and everything keeps landing flat, know that if you keep on working and you really take that introspective look and that really work on yourself during those times of lull. I talk about this with relationships all the time, man, because a lot of times people are talking about breakups or they're talking about, hey, my wife left me or my girlfriend left me, man, I thought I was going to marry her. I empathize with you. I do. But instead of worrying about her and thinking about her, the best thing that you can possibly do is become a man who is desirable. Become a man who stands confidently on his own 2 feet, whether she comes back or not, whether she calls or not, whether she returns the text message or the call or not. Become the best version of yourself so that then and only then can you show up as a whole man in a relationship. I never bought into this whole, hey, I'm 50%, she's 50%, and now together we're 100%. No. You're 100, she's 100. Well, I don't want to fall into the perfection game here, right? You're 90, try to get to the upper 90s if you can, right? And you got some things you want to work on, but you come together knowing the things that you need to work on. Then you make a promise to God that you both are going to stick it out and try to become the best version of yourself. So hope that helps. from Caleb and anybody else who can relate to it. Next question comes from Balsley. B-A-L-S-L-E-Y. Balsley. What chapter of As a Man Thinketh, pull it out actually, what chapter of As a Man Thinketh do you find yourself rereading most frequently? Keep being good, Balsley. Well, actually, I was just on a plane the other day, and I opened up As a Man Thinketh, and I think I had a bookmark in my favorite chapter because, gosh, first of all, by the way, man, $7.99 on Amazon. Y'all can get this book. I think I have bestsuccessbooks.net. I think they bought the rights to it. Connor, you might know how these things work. This was not. They didn't publish it, but I think they probably bought the rights to it and then sold 1 million copies of them. It's like $7.99 on Amazon, and this is the best book that you will ever read. I said it earlier. You will get what you deserve. Every thought seed planted cannot fail to produce a fruit. That's from this book, right? Everything we think turns into our circumstances, and our circumstances, while we think, well, our circumstances are just, it's serendipity or it's bad luck or it's, things. And of course we live in a fallen world and there's a lot of things going on, a lot of people going on, and everyone's making their own decisions. But ultimately what you think about and what you meditate the most on becomes your reality and ultimately becomes your circumstances. So I think it was this thought and purpose one. The problem is every single word of this book is so dadgum good, but I have this whole thing highlighted. Just as the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of weak thoughts can make them strong by exercising himself in right thinking. To put away aimlessness and weakness and to begin to think with purpose is to enter the ranks of those strong ones who only recognize failure as one of the pathways to attainment, who make all conditions serve them, and who think strongly, attempt fearlessly, and accomplish masterfully. Having conceived of his life's purpose, a man should mentally mark out a straight pathway to its achievement, looking neither to the right nor the left. Doubts and fears should be rigorously excluded. They are disintegrating elements which break up the straight line of effort, rendering it crooked, ineffectual, and useless. He who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. Thought allied fearlessly to purpose becomes creative force. He who knows this is ready to become something higher and stronger than a mere bundle of wavering thoughts and fluctuating sensations. He who does this has become the conscious and intelligent wielder of his mental powers. So I read that the other day, put a star on there. I mean, this thing is all jacked up. It's all bent up, and it's got turns out I was like, yeah, I'm gonna mark some things in this book. And then it turns out as I started reading through it, I'm like, I've literally underlined and highlighted about 75% of this book, and that's how good it is. I'm gonna put it right here. So maybe it'll remind me of a couple of things that James Allen said. I think he wrote it in like 1902 or something like that. But it's easily the greatest book ever written by man, in my opinion. And it's very short. It's like 40 something pages. I've read through this thing probably 100 different times. It's really easy to pick up on a plane. It's in this backpack, my travel backpack, at all times. We've got a couple copies in here that I know we did some giveaways. We need to do another giveaway at some point, Connor. Because, man, this book has blessed me in ways that I never thought possible. And if I could just maybe sum it up, it's all on you. The Calvary is not coming. Ain't nobody coming to save you. You can blame other people all you want, and you can blame people for the next 80 years, and you're never going to live a purposeful life. You are what you are and where you are because of the decisions that you make, the thoughts that you think, and it's all on you. As a man thinketh, so shall he become. So, great question. I'm glad you, who was this? I'm glad you brought it up, Balsley. And I encourage everybody right now. I actually implore you. I actually almost tell you, you have to. If you are an avid listener of this show, you obviously think, well, I got some wisdom. It's not just the fighting, and it's not just the the cool things I get to do, man. I've ingested things like this and ingested this 100-something times. And it's so dang good. So get on Amazon but throw a link up there. We'll throw a link in the description on YouTube or something just so you guys can hop on it. And literally it's like $7.99. Man, I'll send you $7.99 if you guys can't afford it. Next one comes from Aaron. Oh. Hey, Michael. First of all, I just want to say thank you for everything you do in MMA and outside of it. You're the real one through and through. I'm a big fan of your entire career, but an even bigger fan of your mindset. I'm a 17-year-old kid going into a senior year of high school, and I've trained pure MMA since I was 12. However, this is the first year I've thrown myself into the competition field through grappling competitions. I really love the discipline and routine of the competition training, whether it's wrestling and BJJ sessions or strength and conditioning, and I really love the energy that I draw from my training partners and the training itself. But one thing I've been struggling with is that I haven't been able to show God the same discipline and commitment. My question for you is, how do you keep a focus on God, reading His Word, and praying whether you're in fight camp, off season, or just a busy week? I look up to your faith. I look up to you for your faith in God over any fight you've won, and I'd like your advice on this spiritual discipline. See you at the top, Aaron. Well, number one, I brought this up earlier. It's hard to admit that you don't give God the time He deserves. It's hard to admit that you don't read the Bible and pray and seek His face as much as you should, right? As a Christian man, Christian woman, that should be our goal. Honor God in everything that we do, seek His face, ask for wisdom, and hopefully out of the abundance of the heart speaks the mouth. And out of the abundance of the heart, there my actions follow. And I would also like to admit that I struggle with the exact same thing, Aaron. And I think that is part of the human condition as well. He has given us free will for a reason. And I think sometimes to have these introspective seasons of our life, I'm actually going through one right now, if I'm being quite honest with you, the Charlie Kirk stuff and all of the fallout from that, and then watching his memorial. And I felt this deep sense of conviction that, man, I'm not seeking God's face enough. And I'm not. And sometimes we can say, well, I'm doing good enough. And I talk about God to people, and I read the Word every now and then, and I'm doing some things with some Christian organizations, and I pray enough. But how lukewarm am I? I've really been asking myself that a lot. And I don't know where everybody's faith is right now, whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian, or you've dabbled in it, or you've been somewhat burned by the Christian faith in your past, which a lot of people have that experience, and they're like, I'm never going back because those people are fake, or those people are two-faced, or those people are, this whole God thing is not, this big story just seems unbelievable. And, Aaron, number one, like I would say, I would like to honor you for even asking the question and admitting that you need to seek God's face and give Him the time that you do to mixed martial arts or to, grappling and strength and conditioning and those things, because I do the same thing. And I think the hardest conundrum and the path that we take as men who are trying to accomplish something, when I know I've got to put a ton of time into mixed martial arts and training and business and making money to provide for the family and making good on the promises I've made to myself and to my business partners and all these things. I have so many things going on, and they seem so important. And ultimately, I know I'm doing them for the right reason. I'm doing them to build the platform to be able to spread the gospel, to do things where people can say, man, I don't know what it is about him, but I really like what he's doing and how he lives his life and what he's doing. So I know I'm doing it for the right reasons, but ultimately too, my personal journey and my personal walk sometimes seems like it's taking the back seat because I'm out here in the world trying to accomplish what the world can give me, trying to accomplish everything that the world has to offer. And those are all great things. I believe the gold and the diamonds were reserved for God's people, not the devil's bunch. I do believe that God wants us to have all of those things, because ultimately without a lot of those things, how do you continue to reach as many people as possible? And I think sometimes the devil, the enemy, he knows you just as well as God knows you sometimes, and he knows exactly how to distract you and exactly how to entice you and exactly how to tempt you. And it doesn't have to be, I was thinking about this, the verse, the devil comes to kill and steal and destroy, and all of that sounds catastrophic, killing and stealing and destroying. But I think the current spiritual warfare is less about the devil coming in some catastrophic manner. I think the devil's coming in with tiny little drops of aimlessness and tiny little drops of distraction and tiny little drops of social media and tiny little drops of success or tiny little drops of temptation. So all those tiny little drops lead up to one big catastrophe for the fall of certain people. And that's why we are called to put on the full armor of God every single day. Now, every single day sounds like a lot. It's pretty darn easy for me to wake up and get my coffee and say, well, my kids are waking up here in a second. And my wife is here and she's going to work here in a second. And I got these 3 interviews today and I got these 2 meetings and I've got to go do this and I've got to do that. I got to go serve my people on Walk on Wisdom. And I start thinking about all those things. And all of a sudden God's like, hey, all right, well, go do your thing, man. I guess I'll be here when you come back, right? But I do believe that we serve a God who would leave the 99 to go chase the one. And I do know that he wants us to seek him every single day, every single minute of every single day. That is his desire, obviously, to draw nearer to him. And I think ultimately, as we said earlier, sometimes you need to go through a season of wandering to realize how your life just isn't as complete and isn't as fulfilling when you aren't connected to your Lord and Savior. And I've been a blueprint for that for a very long time. I got saved when I was 15 years old, and it's been ups and downs ever since. It hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. I've had my days where I question God, and I've had my moments seasons where I'm not seeking him, not even asking him about the big decisions. Y'all ever think about a big decision and the whole thing comes to fruition and the whole thing falls apart, and then you look back and think, man, did I even ask God about that? Did I even ask for wisdom? Did I even stop to even ask for his consent, ask for his wisdom, ask for his discernment? I was actually speaking to a guy the other day that a lot of you would probably know, and he's got a high profile and he's very successful, and we had one of those like deep talks where he's like, man, I had this thought the other day about this thing that I did, this business venture that I did, and it seemed right and I felt all good about it. And I asked myself, gosh, did I even ask God about that? So I say that to say that you were not called to be perfect. Jesus took all of those stripes and shed all of that blood so that you didn't have to live this life with the expectation that you were perfect or that you were going to be able to somehow figure out how to seek his face at all times and seek him in every single decision and seek him in every single interaction and every single relationship and every single business venture and every single competition every single day. But I do know these moments of reflection, Aaron, or these moments of reflection I was just candid with you guys about, these moments remind you that through all of it, I actually was praying last night. I was grilling 2 nights ago, I was grilling some steak and there was this beautiful breeze happening. And I just looked up at the trees and I was just thanking God, like, God, thank you so much, even through my disobedience or my arrogance, thinking I don't need you. I don't need to ask you. I don't need you because I got it all handled down here. Even through all of that, he's always made sure that things have always worked out. But I think you have to have, only by going through those seasons of lukewarmness, those seasons of stagnation, those seasons where you're not connected to God, you go through those in order to get on the other side, to look back and realize, man, I'm so thankful that he's been so faithful throughout it all, even in my disobedience. A good friend of mine, John Gordon, wrote a book called The One Truth. And he talks about how when you're connected to God, everything comes easy. When you're connected and you're in those spiritual flow states, so to speak, where you're just like, man, this comes easy. I'm picking up the Bible and I'm opening it up first thing in the morning, and I'm actually praying before meetings, and I'm praying before dinners, and I'm praying before decisions, and I'm praying before interactions, and it seems like I'm talking to him a lot more than I normally do. When you're in that vein, things are working out really well because you're connected to your source, the one that edifies you. And then when you're disconnected, as Aaron is talking about a little bit here, and he's not necessarily saying that, it's more just, I think, a little bit of guilt and shame. Let's go into that. Actually, maybe in this would probably resonate with a lot of people, a little bit of, kind of guilt and shame where I know I'm pouring myself so much into this worldly thing. For him, it's MMA, BJJ, grappling competition, strength and conditioning. Same thing with me. I'm in a training camp and I'm 100% focused on, I got this fight in 10 weeks. Every single day, I'm going to train 2-3 times a day. I'm going to eat perfectly. I'm going to visualize. I'm going to journal. I'm going to do my 10x superhuman protocol. I'm not going to miss a day. I'm going to get on the bike. I'm going to do the red light therapy. I'm going to do the hypermax oxygen. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to roll out. I'm going to meet with my coaches and we're going to game plan. I'm going to train. I'm going to do all these things. And it's so complicated and I pour my full self into it. But I shouldn't feel the guilt and the shame for doing things 100% right in the worldly path that I'm choosing, if that makes sense. Because God has given us an amazing amount of gifts. And he's given me an amazing gifts to be able to do what I do and make the impact that I make. And that in and of itself is part of the testimony too. He didn't call you to be a monk on a mountain somewhere praying to him every single day, because ultimately you're not reaching people. And for me, I pour myself into all of this that is the me brand, the Michael Chandler brand, so that I can have the maximum amount of impact. And then in my personal life, in my quiet time, trying to continue to ask for wisdom. So Aaron, I would just encourage you or anybody else who's listening right now too, where you've gone through those seasons of lukewarmness or, not really feeling like you're giving God the time that he needs. Show yourself some grace. He's the King of grace. He literally invented grace. He's the God of grace. So Aaron, I hope that helps, man. And best of luck on your MMA journey. You've been doing it now for 5-6 years, it looks like, man. Hopefully I'll see you in the UFC one day and I'm sitting there cage side watching you. And that does it for all the questions that got brought in. As I said, these questions come in to podcast@michaelchandler.com. You guys can send them in. And, as I said too, we can talk about strength and conditioning and lifting weights and dieting and who am I fighting next? And am I fighting Connor at the White House and all the different kind of base questions that I get every single day, base level questions that I get every single day. And they're really easy to answer, but I like to go deeper with you guys. Not a lot of wisdom from, hey, I'm fighting this date or fighting this guy, or not a lot of wisdom with, hey, I eaten this amount of macros during my training camp. So thank you guys for believing in me and leaning on my wisdom and even, seeing, it's so humbling too, seeing just kind of the shout outs, so to speak, of loving what I do inside the octagon, but also loving what I do outside the octagon, and these episodes helping you in any way, shape, or form, because I know I would not be here today talking to you guys had I not had so many people come into my life and speak wisdom into me at the exact right time. So maybe this episode found you at a perfect time. Maybe it was sent to you. Maybe you want to send it to someone else. And we don't have any odds or ads or sponsors, or there's no Patreons. There's no money being made on this podcast. The only entry fee, the only thing and requirement that I would ask of you guys is to share it with somebody. Like and subscribe, or whatever they do on these things. Connor, what is it? Like and subscribe. Not like, comment, subscribe. That shows you how much I don't do it for that. Leave a review. Send it to somebody. If one of these questions hit you and you're kind of going through something with somebody, or you think it could help somebody, just send it, man, because our best days and blessed days are out ahead of us, and all the hard work eventually pays off as long as we're still standing there to receive it when it does. And we were created for such great things, and we were created for community. We were created for relationships, and I am just absolutely humbled to share my wisdom with you guys. So thank you guys for tuning in. Share this with somebody, and y'all have a great day. Do that, and God bless. I'll see you at the top.